Some of my fondest memories as a kid revolved around video games, not necessarily the act of playing them, but for the friendships and discussions they formed. Games kinda changed the way I viewed the world. Seeing these meticulously designed electronic adventures inspired me to create my own adventures, myself alongside my childhood friends. We were so full of youthful imagination. Everything felt so wonderful, and everything was an opportunity to create something new. I miss those days quite a bit. The wild adventures we created, we used the world around us as a sandbox. None of our games were organized. We didn't follow a set of game rules. We just went where our imaginations took us. We made our own games, we had our own adventures, we made ourselves the heroes of our own stories, and the world was our map to control. I think a lot of the way I played and interacted with people growing up is a direct response to the impact of video games in my life. I always saw games as a type of movie you had control over, and seeing the way that those stories were designed around that control really left an impact on me. I understood how mechanics could drive stories and experiences, though I didn't know that exact terminology. It's not an exaggeration to say that I saw games as something magical. I was blasting through space with epic music around me. I was conquering the jungle. I was racing through a maple tree in outer space. I was a monkey in a ball. My friends and I always talked about these experiences that we discovered. Because we knew so little, we didn't really care what constituted as a big release. We didn't care about the critical acclaim of a game. We didn't care how well the game ran. We cared about what looked interesting. We cared about what was the most interesting thing to talk about. We cared about our experiences. I think there's a beauty in not really knowing or understanding anything about what you experience. I played games that I thought looked cool. I played games my friends thought looked cool. We didn't care about the quality of the game, it was all magic to us. And every new game made me think in a new way. It made me interact with my friends in a new way. It opened more creative opportunities. New ways to have fun with my friends, even outside of the console and the game itself. Back in that day, I lived in Brazil, which was a life-changing experience in its own right, but needless to say, I was not surrounded by video game media. I never heard what critics were saying. We heard about games through the grapevine. They were all random discoveries. In Brazil, we really didn't get the chance to walk into a game store and see shelves worth of games to search through. Those moments did happen, but not very often. So when we did see a shelf of games, it was exciting to see what experiences existed, what have we missed out on, what could we play next, what new worlds could we discover. I ended up with a Wii game collection that was fairly unusual, but all the games meant something to me. My collection consisted of Super Smash Bros. Brawl, Mario Kart Wii, Super Mario Galaxy, Super Mario Galaxy 2, Super Paper Mario, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, Mario Party 8, Wii Play, Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz, some weird Winter Olympics game, and of course Wii Sports. I'm sure there were some more games we had, though some I've regrettably forgotten about over time. Mario was so iconic in our household that the trash bin we used to hold our games was split into two sections. One side dedicated to Mario games, and the other side dedicated to every other non-Mario game we had. I think that's when I fell in love with Mario. He wasn't just a brand mascot to me. Rather, he was the figure that was introducing me to the world of video games. I say this all to make it clear that all those games I had growing up, even the bad ones, still meant something to me. The cliche goes that these weren't just games, they were experiences, but to me they were something even more than just experiences. They were memories, integral to my life growing up. The way I interacted with my friends was rooted in those memories. And I think a lot of my creative urges today come from the way that games made me feel back then. I want to make things that strike some sense of awe in the player. I want to make things that foster conversation and instill some sort of creative desire to all who experience it. These games and the way they made me think have impacted the direction of my life. Which is why I'm so upset that a good few years ago, when my Wii broke down before I had a Wii U, I decided to sell all of my Wii games. Well, not all, but most of them. The games I decided to keep were Super Mario Galaxy 2 and Wipeout 3, which I didn't even mention earlier because I forgot about it. My dog chewed up my case, so I decided not to sell it, but all of the other games, all of my other experiences, they all drifted away from me. For a brief moment I cared more about money than those experiences, and ever since that moment passed I regretted my choice. At the time, Super Mario Galaxy was my favorite game of all time, and I sold it in a bundle with all my other games for less than $50. Certainly the memories that single game provided were worth far more than that. Nevertheless, that was the decision I made, and one that I've lived with since. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal. I could have done worse things than to sell a few games, even if those games meant a lot to me. Less than a year later, already regretting having sold them all, I bought myself a new copy of Super Mario Galaxy, but to save money I bought the Nintendo Select version. It was still a fully playable version of the game I loved growing up, but it didn't really meet the same thing. I didn't mind the Nintendo Select box for a while, but last year I started to feel really nostalgic for those games, more than I had felt before, and I decided to rebuy a full original copy of Super Mario Galaxy, manual and all. It wasn't too expensive, but it came in remarkably nice quality. I might own 3 copies of Super Mario Galaxy now, but I'm not complaining, and I'm not selling any of them either. But that purchase really opened the floodgates for me. I started to recognize that it would be fully possible to recollect all my lost Wii games. I didn't have that many to begin with, after all. It's funny because I sold all of those games for about $50, but to recollect them all it will cost around $180. I guess that's part of the reason I'm making this video. It's because I'm starting that process now. And I could buy them all back at once, I could afford that, but I think that would make each game feel less impactful again. I want to enjoy the experience of buying them all again, and by spreading out these purchases I can manage my money a bit better, while enjoying the experience of rebuying these games a bit more. I love these games too much to treat them like an investment. It's so hard as an adult to feel the same awe for things I felt as a child. I wonder if returning to these games would create some sense of awe again, just to hold the same games I held way back in the day. So, what's the point? What is there to say about all of this? Certainly buying back these games is important to me, but the message is far bigger than just a personal life update. The point is, games are art. Those games you played growing up, they are going to make an impact in your life. The games you're playing now, good or bad, are important. And as our lives keep moving forward, don't forget about the things that inspired you. Think about the relationships you've formed through mutual experience. Be willing to let go and feel absorbed into something that's special to you. As adults, it's easy to get cynical, and that cynicism is sometimes justified. But don't let that cynicism undermine the bliss of youthful relationships.